We are wondering what is happening to the world. Everything is changing.
In certain places in Murang'a County, nature is adjusting what has been considered normal. Some residents have lost their homes, others their farms after deep cracks formed on the ground and split their properties. This farm, for instance, was at the same level before the depression formed. A section of this road is lost, forcing vehicles plying this route to use one lane. It all started last month, and the cracks continue to widen.
The cracks are just due to underground drainage. The water which has percolated to the soil is forming underground drainage, and due to underground erosion, then you find the area is collapsing, forming cracks, and some areas subsiding.
Geologists warn the status quo will worsen as heavy rains continue to pound the area. The most affected areas in Murang'a are Kangema, Mathioya and Kiharu. The Kenya Red Cross has been providing counseling to the victims, as some of them are in denial over the losses they have incurred. About 1,200 families from Mount Kenya region have been affected by the destruction caused by the heavy rains. Red Cross Regional Coordinator Mugambi Gitonga says Murang'a County is the worst hit, with over 600 families affected. Kirinyaga is second, followed by Nyeri, Meru and Tharaka.
Here we go again. We've got some planets.
was pretty dramatic. Actually, all of them were pretty dramatic. But that one was in my social media feeds about a week ago, and I proceeded to just look into whether hailstorms were increasing in intensity or frequency. And I think the results will shock you. Now, the other two photographs, or videos rather, were taken in 2017, so a little bit dated, but still fairly recent. In fact, if you go to Google and just do a search result of severe hailstorms, you'll find that there's probably more results than you can filter through from 2018, 2017, actually going all the way back to 2004 of very intense hailstorms. Now, the one that I'm showing you here for reference is just the devastating impact of it. So this one, which was the last video clip that happened in Spain, was so intense that not only did it damage crops and infrastructure and cars, but actually killed a whole host of animals, which you're seeing here. So these are no joke. They're really, really intense. Now, of course, I would not be a good researcher if I just pulled up the most severe hail footage from all over the world for the past decade. Of course, anyone can make anything look bad if they do that. So naturally, we need to look and see whether this is a trend, whether things are indeed actually getting worse. So here's an article from Melbourne, Australia, and you can see, what does it revolve around? That the insurance companies are starting to shell out money because of all this severe hail damage. And then in this next article, which you can see published only 3 days ago. So 3 days ago, this isn't just, last year and things. Several hundred Nebraska farmers lose hail coverage because the insurance companies are just starting to withdraw back because they can't cover it anymore. The hailstorms are becoming more intense and increasing in frequency, that they're starting to lose money. So these poor farmers out there, their crops are getting destroyed and they have nothing to back it up with. Another small indication that the hailstorms are increasing in intensity and frequency is when it becomes so noticeable that the mainstream media has to call it out and, of course, use their scapegoat of climate change as the reason. But that all pales in comparison to some of this data that I found on this article published on April 4th, 2017 by this website called Earth Changes and the Pole Shift. There was some really good research done in this article, mostly towards the comments section, where people actually mined the National Weather Service database, which is publicly available. And you'll see that right around 1985, you start to have an inflection point where the number of cases of significant or severe hailstorms started to rapidly increase all the way up to about 2010. But then there was a key note here in red. The National Weather Service changed their criteria for severe hail from 0.75 inches to 1 inch in 2010. And so it looks like there's a drop off going into 2015, but that's only because they modified the criteria. So you do have some pretty compelling data, at least from the United States, that there's a dramatic increase in hailstorms. And if you pair this up with the variety of other graphs that I've shown you in the past, the number of volcanoes is increasing. The number of high magnitude earthquakes are increasing. The strength of hurricanes, as we know, especially in the States, has been increasing, some of the strongest on records. I did want to tie this back into the Bible, Revelation 16:21. This is in regards to God's wrath. So we will not be here for this, but I think a lot of what we are seeing are harbingers of things to come. It says, in great hailstones, about 100 pounds each, fell from heaven on people, and they cursed God for the plague of the hail, because the plague was so severe. There's some people that equate the hail in this verse to be more symbolic of God's word, but in my opinion, it seems like it is physical hail. But again, these are the birth pangs. It said that earthquakes would increase and they would be in diverse places, and you would have pestilences and famine. We certainly have those. And we've got just this multitude of severe weather events increasing throughout the world. Some people are still blind to it.
This is what hell looks like.
my God, it just blew into my central line.
Ни хрена себе. Охренеть.
The latest violent eruptions spewing fountains of lava.
Oh, watch out, watch out, watch out.
Now at least 19 fissures splitting open in residential neighborhoods. Gas so toxic, it's killing trees and grasses. Geologists say these fiery flows scorching the Big Island appear to be moving faster, burning hotter, and are more erratic than ever before.
The 2,000-degree molten rock exploding from the ground is creating rivers of lava, continue to devastate this community and literally change the landscape.